I saved $32,000 for my father's heart surgery, working double shifts for months. On my 27th birthday, I came home to find an empty house and a note. Emergency came up, had to use the surgery money. Don't worry, Dad says he feels better anyway. That night, my sister posted on Instagram, treated the whole family to Cancun at 22. Best daughter ever, with photos of them sipping margaritas at a resort I paid for. When they returned a week later, laughing and tanned, they found all their belongings on the front lawn and new locks on my house. Now my phone has 47 missed calls. And my mother's latest voicemail just says, "How could you do this to your family?" I'm still shaking as I type this. The audacity, the betrayal. I can barely process it. For 4 years, I've been the responsible one, the provider, the one keeping a roof over their heads, and this is how they repay me? By stealing money meant to save my father's life and then flaunting it on social media like they're the generous ones? Let me explain how we got here. 4 years ago, my father lost his job after his company downsized. My mother hasn't worked since I was in high school, claiming her migraines make employment impossible, though they never seem to strike during her weekly salon appointments. My sister dropped out of community college after 1 semester, insisting she was meant for bigger things than education. My younger brother graduated high school last year but has spent more time perfecting his gaming skills than job hunting. Meanwhile, I've been working as a nurse practitioner, often pulling 60-hour weeks. When my father couldn't make the mortgage payments, I offered to let them stay with me temporarily while they got back on their feet. 4 years later, they were still there, treating my house like a free hotel with maid service. Me. Updated. Thank you all for the overwhelming support. I've received hundreds of messages asking for more details. Some are questioning if my father was really sick. Yes, he had scheduled valve replacement surgery. The money was in my checking account because I didn't trust them with it, Will. Keep updating as this unfolds. This wasn't the first time they'd taken advantage of me. Last year, I paid for my brother's coding boot camp, $12,000 that he insisted would change his life. 3 weeks in, he dropped out because it was too intense, but the money was non-refundable. When I confronted him, my mother intervened. He's just finding himself, at least he tried. Then there was my sister's business venture, a beauty blog that required a $5,000 camera, $3,000 worth of makeup, and a $2,000 MacBook. 6 months later, she had posted exactly 3 videos, but somehow had a closet full of new clothes that were necessary for her brand image. My father constantly promised to look for work, but his job hunting seemed to consist mainly of watching ESPN and telling me how the economy was stacked against men his age. Yet he never missed his weekly golf games with friends. Paid for by me, of course. I kept believing things would change, that they'd start contributing, show some appreciation, take some responsibility. Instead, they grew more entitled with... Each passing month, my mother rearranged my furniture without asking. My sister borrowed my clothes and returned them stained. My brother filled my basement with gaming equipment that tripped the circuit breakers regularly. When my father started complaining about chest pains, I was genuinely worried. The diagnosis, a heart valve problem requiring surgery, terrified. Me, our insurance would cover most, but the $32,000 deductible and out-of-pocket expenses fell to me. I picked up extra shifts, canceled my vacation plans, and even sold my car for a cheaper model. For 6 months, every spare dollar went into my surgery fund. The morning of my 27th birthday, I woke up early for my shift at the hospital. No one had mentioned my birthday the night before, but I wasn't surprised. My birthdays were usually overlooked while my sisters were celebrated with dinner reservations and custom cakes. Still, I had hoped for at least a card when I returned home. That evening, exhausted from a 12-hour shift, the house was eerily quiet. No lights, no TV sports commentary, no sisters' music blaring. Just silence and a note on the kitchen counter in my mother's handwriting. As I read it, something inside me shifted, like a bone finally breaking after years of pressure. I stood there, my hands shaking, as I read and reread those words. They hadn't even bothered to make up a convincing lie. Dad feels better anyway. As if a serious heart condition just magically disappears, I checked my bank account on my phone, empty, the surgery fund, completely drained. That's when my phone pinged with an Instagram notification. My sister had just posted a series of photos from a luxury resort in Cancun. My parents smiling with piña coladas, my brother doing a cannonball into an infinity pool, all of them posing in front of a sunset with the caption, "Treated the whole family to Cancun at 22. Best daughter ever, proper family first." She was taking credit for a vacation purchased with the money I had saved to potentially save our father's life. Something inside me snapped, not in an out-of-control way, but in a moment of perfect clarity. I finally saw my family for what they truly were. Updated. I'm overwhelmed by the questions about why I didn't keep the money in a separate account. Honestly, I never thought they'd stoop this low. They must have watched me enter my password. previously, and yes, I've spoken to the hospital. Dad's surgery wasn't magically canceled as they claimed in a text. I didn't scream. I didn't call them. I didn't post angry comments on my sister's Instagram featuring the words theft and betrayal. Instead, I made a plan. First, I called my best friend Sarah and asked if I could stay with her for a few days. Then I called a locksmith and scheduled them to come first thing in the morning. Next, I contacted my bank. Though they couldn't recover the funds since my family had access to my account, they helped me close that account and open a new one where only I had access. I called my credit card companies and passwords for everything: email, social media, streaming services, anything they might try to use. I took photos of everything in the house that belonged to me, documenting my possessions in case they tried to claim I had stolen from them. I even called the non-emergency police line to explain the situation, so there would be a record if things escalated. That night, I barely slept. But it wasn't from sadness or even anger. For the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of empowerment, like I was finally taking control of my life instead of just reacting to their demands. While staying at Sarah's apartment, I purchased security cameras, new door locks, and window sensors, all to be installed the next day. I waited for them to return from their vacation, tracking my sister's Instagram posts to know exactly when they'd be back. According to her final post, captioned, "Back to reality tomorrow." Post-vacation blues. They'd be home Thursday afternoon. Thursday morning, I arrived at my house with reinforcements. Sarah, her boyfriend Mike, who works in construction, and my colleague Jessica. The locksmith had already changed all the locks, and Mike helped install the security cameras. Then came the hard part. Sorting through 4 years of accumulated belongings, we worked methodically, separating my possessions from theirs. My things stayed inside. Theirs went on the front lawn, organized in labeled boxes. I wasn't vindictive about it. I didn't damage anything, didn't throw their stuff carelessly. I even made sure weather-sensitive items were properly protected with tarps, since there was a chance of rain later. By noon, the front yard looked like an organized garage sale. My mother's endless collection of QVC purchases, my father's golf clubs and sports memorabilia, my sister's fashion haul and influencer equipment, my brother's gaming throne and multiple consoles, all neatly arranged, all officially evicted from my home. At 3:42 p.m., I heard the sound of my father's SUV pulling into the driveway. The same SUV I'd made half the payments on. Through the security camera feed on my phone, I watched their vacation euphoria evaporate as they took in the scene before them. My mother was the first out of the car, her face transforming from confusion to outrage in seconds. The doorbell started, ringing immediately, followed by pounding when I didn't answer. What is the meaning of this? My mother shrieked loudly enough for the neighbors to hear, "Open this door right now." I watched through the peephole as my father tried his key in the lock, then tried again as if it might suddenly work. My brother was picking through the boxes, already checking if his gaming equipment was intact. My sister stood frozen on the sidewalk, phone in hand, probably trying to figure out how to spin this on social media. Finally, I opened the door but remained standing in the doorway, blocking entry. Sarah stood behind me, a silent support. "Have you lost your mind?" My mother began. "Why are our things outside? Why doesn't our key work?" "It's not your key," I said calmly. "And it's not your house." "What are you talking about? We live here!" My father interjected, attempting to step forward. I didn't budge. "Not anymore. You stole $32,000 from me. Money for your surgery, Dad? Money I worked overtime for months to save. Then you all took a luxury vacation with it and had the audacity to let her take credit for it." I nodded toward my sister, who had the grace to look away. "That was a misunderstanding," my mother began, switching tactics, her voice softening. "Your father was feeling better, and the doctor said we could postpone—" "I called the hospital," I interrupted. "There was no postponement. You canceled it completely. Dr. Reeves said Dad still needs the surgery. We were going to pay you back." My sister finally spoke, stepping forward. "I just got a sponsorship deal. The vacation was a business expense, really, for my content." "For your content," I repeated flatly. "You needed my father's surgery money for content. You're overreacting." My brother chimed in, clutching one of his gaming controllers. "Family helps family. How many times have you said that? We're allowed to make mistakes." "Stealing $32,000 isn't a mistake," I replied, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "It's a choice. A choice you all made together, knowing exactly what that money was for. And now you've made me make a choice too." "And what choice is that?" my father asked, his face flushed. Whether from anger or exertion from standing too long, I couldn't tell. The choice to finally put myself first. This is my house. I pay the mortgage. I pay the utilities. I've supported all of you for 4 years while you contributed nothing. And your thanks was to steal from me and lie about it. "You can't be serious," my mother gasped. "Where are we supposed to go?" "That's not my problem anymore," I said, feeling a strange calm despite the confrontation. "You had no problem figuring out accommodation in Cancun. I'm sure you can figure this out too." My father stepped forward, using his stern voice that used to make me cave immediately. Now you listen here, young lady. We are your family. You don't turn your back on family. You turned your back on me first, I replied. When you stole money that could have saved your life, when you let your daughter take credit for something I paid for, when you left me alone on my birthday to go enjoy yourselves with money I earned, my sister began to cry, loud, dramatic sobs that had worked to get her way since childhood. I can't believe you're doing this to us after everything we've done for you. And what exactly have you done for me? I asked, genuinely curious about what she could possibly say. She faltered, her tears pausing momentarily as she searched for an answer. We're your family. We love you. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't take advantage, I said quietly. I've contacted a lawyer. You have until 8 p.m. to remove your belongings from my property, or they'll be considered abandoned. I've also filed a police report about the stolen funds. You're calling the police on your own family? My mother practically shrieked. You stole from your own daughter, I countered. Your own daughter who has supported you for years, who worked herself to exhaustion to save her father's life. If anyone should be shocked here, it's me, the neighbors. We're definitely watching now, some not even pretending not to stare from their porches or windows. My family had always been obsessed with appearances, with what others thought of them. Public embarrassment was their kryptonite. This isn't over, my father said, his voice low and threatening. Actually, it is, I replied, handing each of them an envelope. These are certified letters stating you are no longer welcome on this property. Any attempt to enter without my permission will be considered trespassing. I closed the door then, despite their continued protests and pounding. For the next several hours, they alternated between threats, pleading, and attempting to guilt me. Through the door, my sister posted a tearful Instagram story about family betrayal. Without any context, my brother tried to convince me to at least let him take a shower inside. My mother called relatives to try to get them to intervene. Throughout it all, I remained firm. By 7:30 p.m., they had loaded most of their belongings into their car and my father's golf buddy's pickup truck he'd called for help. At 7:58 p.m., they prepared to leave, my mother made one final attempt. You'll regret this, she said, her voice breaking. When you need your family someday, we won't be there. You weren't there when I needed you this time, I replied simply. Nothing will change if I let you back in. As they drove away, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. I had lost my family, but in many ways I had lost them years ago. When I became an ATM rather than a daughter, a means to an end rather than a person with needs and feelings of her own. That night, I slept in my own bed, in my own house, with my own rules, truly alone for the first time in 4 years. And despite everything, it was the most peaceful sleep I'd had in years. It's been 18 months since I changed the locks. The aftermath wasn't easy. My family didn't go quietly into the night. For weeks, they launched a campaign to paint me as the villain. My mother called my workplace, claiming I was having a mental breakdown. My sister posted strategically. Edited conversations on social media. My father told relatives I had stolen their home. Some family members sided with them initially. My Aunt Martha called me heartless. My cousin Tyler suggested I was overreacting. But as the truth emerged, as I calmly shared bank statements, showed the Instagram posts, explained the canceled surgery, most began to understand. Not all agreed with my methods, but they couldn't deny the theft. My father eventually got his surgery 6 months later, not because I paid for it, but because my aunt and uncle helped them navigate public assistance programs. He recovered, physically at least. Our relationship did not. They found an apartment eventually, much smaller than my house, much less comfortable than what they were used to. My mother had to get a job for the first time in decades. Working at a local grocery store, my father found part-time work as a security guard. My sister's influencer career never took off, especially after the treated the family post became evidence in my police report about the stolen funds. My brother finally got a job at a warehouse after his gaming equipment was pawned to pay rent. As for me, I've found a kind of peace I never knew was possible. My house feels like mine now. I repainted the walls colors I love. I adopted a dog named Luna who greets me enthusiastically when I come home from work. I've made real friendships. The kind where giving and taking are balanced. I even started dating someone who insists on paying his own way. Most importantly, I've learned to value myself. To understand that helping others shouldn't mean erasing my own needs. I still work. As a nurse practitioner, still help people every day, but with healthy boundaries that protect my well-being too. Sometimes I get texts from my mother, usually when they're struggling financially. Sometimes my sister sends passive-aggressive holiday wishes. My brother reached out recently saying he misses me, though I notice it coincided with the release of an expensive new gaming console. Do I miss them? The truth is complicated. I miss who I wish they were. I miss the idea of family, but I don't miss the anxiety of checking my bank account every day, wondering what would be missing. I don't miss the constant dismissal of my needs and dreams. I don't miss feeling like an ATM with a pulse. Last week, I received an unexpected letter from my father, unlike the others. It wasn't asking for money or making accusations. It was short, just 3 sentences. I should have been a better father. I'm sorry for what we did to you. I hope someday you can forgive me. I haven't responded yet. Forgiveness might be possible someday, but trust is a different matter entirely. For now, I'm focused on the family I'm creating for myself. Friends who respect boundaries, colleagues who value my work, a partner who sees me as an equal, and a dog who loves me unconditionally. Updated. This post has gained more attention than I ever expected. For those asking, yes, I did eventually pursue legal action about the stolen funds, but settled when they agreed to a repayment plan that they're actually keeping to. Surprisingly, I've realized something important through all this. Saying no isn't selfish. It's sometimes the most self-respecting thing you can do. Would you have changed the locks or given them another chance?